So we're going to start with the Paytech Paycheck Protection Program. I'm gonna get that straight by the end of this briefing. It's a big mouthful. But anyway, this is probably going to be your first choice. If you are eligible for this, I've looked at all these different things. It probably has the most advantages to it. So if you're eligible for this one, you probably want to go ahead and apply. You'll see that the majority of my slides are actually focused on this program itself. So what businesses are eligible? Businesses with less than 500 employees, less than or equal 500. There are some affiliate rules in place for accommodation and food services. You know, some of these giant businesses with multiple locations. The same thing with franchise. If you're one of those businesses, they've tried to make it easy for you to qualify based on the location. You know, no more than 500 employees at one particular location. Uh, What's interesting about this is they've also opened the doors for nonprofits to be eligible to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. Additionally, this does apply to sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed, whatever you want to call yourself, who regularly carry on a trade or business. Okay, so that there was some confusion about that as far as how that was going to be counted. So those folks are able to apply on their own for the Paycheck Protection Program. We'll get into more on how that's computed. A couple other minor concerns: tribal business, veterans organizations are also part of this. Employees are defined as full-time, part-time, and a very broad basis of what constitutes an employee. And that for the purposes of counting how many employees you have, 500. So if you're nowhere near that, don't worry about it. As you start getting close to that 500 number, that definition of what counts as an employee becomes pretty significant. But once again, this is not for, you cannot, if you're a business owner, you cannot count people that you pay as an independent contractor. They apply for their own paycheck protection loan. There was some early on, the language of the bill actually implies that a business owner would count the people that he pays as independent contractor. In fact, the first PPP loan application I did with my bank, it had me include that. Then they came back on Friday and said, whoa, no, that's not it. So if you're an independent contractor, you apply on your own. If you're a business owner, you do not count what you pay your independent contractors. Your eligibility for this program may be impacted based on the EIDL, which we're going to talk about, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So you basically can't use both, you can apply for both programs, but you can't use the money from both programs to cover the same expenses. So there is some interaction between the two, but once again, there was some confusion on that. You can apply for both of them. Okay, this is some key information. Is my business ineligible? So the SBA, the Small Business Administration, already has a bunch of rules in place. In fact, the EIDL is a program that's been in place for a number of years. We have some clients that applied for that with the California wildfires. Of course, here in North Carolina, hurricanes come into play. And so that program has been around for a while. And so the SBA standard operating procedure 5010 subpart B chapter 2 lists a whole bunch of businesses that are not eligible. So business engaged in lending like banks, passive businesses. This is going to pick up some of your developers, a lot of real estate businesses. The regulations for this are very complicated. I don't want to go into detail today on that, but if you have a passive business in development, real estate, things like that, we'll have to walk through the rules very closely to see if you're eligible for this, because it only includes a small portion of passive type businesses. Life insurance companies are not eligible. Business in a foreign country or owned by illegal aliens. Here's a big one. Businesses selling through a pyramid plan as defined by the SBA would include multi-level marketing, are not eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program. Businesses engaged in legal gambling activities are not eligible either. Even though it's legal, they're not eligible. Businesses engaged in any illegal activity, so you can't borrow money for that illegal activity of yours. Incidentally, this would also include um, marijuana, because as a federal law, marijuana is not legal. Businesses which restrict patronage, like membership type clubs, government-owned entities, businesses that are engaged in promoting a specific religious belief. The SBA lenders themselves are not eligible. This is the one I like. Businesses with an associate of poor character. And there's about 4 or 5 pages of what that constitutes. But essentially, if you have one of the owners or partners or something in jail or committed a felony, you're not eligible for the program, although you can apply for waivers. Um, Businesses providing prurient sexual material, prior losses. If you defaulted on an SBA loan or delinquent federal debt, you're not eligible for this. If you're a political or lobbying company, you can't do it. And then the last one, which is kind of interesting, you cannot use this loan for speculation. Speculation, they list different things: wildcatting for oil, um, stock and bond investing type things like that. You cannot use it if your business is speculation.